What if your biggest blocks isn't coming from your body, but through your thoughts? Today's guest is Lea Llovio. She works with world leaders, top doctors, celebrities of names that you know. Today, she's here for you. She is a conscious wellness expert, consultant, and speaker. So it is such an honor to have you on today, Lea. I'm truly honored. I know I was trying to get you in studio, but I love that you were able to make some time virtual here today.
Thank you so much, Melissa. It's a great joy to see you again. And we had a beautiful connection when we met with beautiful stories, and we both have had quite the journeys. And our goal is really to help others heal, help others elevate, and help make the world a better place, just one person at a time, you know?
Yes, I have to share how we met, actually. I was really drawn to go to this health optimization summit in Austin in the spring. And I just felt really called to go there. And when I did, I knew why, because I'm like, these are my people, just all getting to the root cause of health. And a lot of it was for my own journey, for me and my family, as certain ailments were showing up. And I just wanted to know why and the root cause. So I go to this health optimization summit, and I'm on the third day, and I think I went to a smaller stage that day. And I sat down, and then you walked into the room and sat down beside me, and we were with a fellow friend of yours, Dave Pasco. And then we just instantly connected. It was beautiful, and I was able to have lunch with you and see you sharing your work. And I was like, I need to have you on my podcast. So here we are today. I'd love for you, Lea, your work behind the scene with world leaders is incredible. And I know you can't share names and whatnot, but I'd love for you to take us back as to how you got started, how being a conscious wellness expert.
Yes. So I actually, grew up among many healers, and I was always fascinated by what makes people heal and the spiritual elements of healing. And so I was blessed to know people from all walks of lives that had different healing modalities, different spiritual practices, and anything from, saying, hey, grab some herbs from the garden, boil them and drink that tea, to one very funny one was if we had an earache, my grandmother would light a cigarette and have us lie on our side and put the cigarette on the ear that hurts, and it would like smoke away the pain.
Wow.
So
That's
yes,
the
yeah,
first. I've never heard that one. I do
yes,
garlic oil,
right,
for my
right.
kids.
Yeah. She also used olive oil. But so these were all different types of modalities, and being exposed to different belief systems and different types of modalities gave me so many tools to use in my own life. But what I realized is that at a very young age, most of us that are in the healing modalities, or whether it's a doctor or a nurse or a Reiki practitioner or a breath worker, we generally tend to be empathetic. So healers just really are empathetic. They really want to help people. They care. And so what I was doing in my life is, as I was always the kind of spiritual guide, the psychologist, the therapist to everyone around me, I was actually taking on their suffering. And I learned this as I became a teenager. I started acting, and I was hosting many television shows in Latin America. And what happened for me is I moved more into the acting industry in the United States and met many, producers, directors, and people that celebrities that I was working with. somehow I always ended up being their therapist. So I was always like the therapist of the show. And I realized quickly that the work that I could do to help people would be far more impactful than having that career, even though it was a blessing because it did connect me and give me those first connections to very powerful people. And not that that makes it more special, but it helped me see that whether people come from modest means or are having wonderful success in their life, the problems are all the same. I myself came from very modest means, from an immigrant family that, struggled to put food on the table. But we always had, the spirituality. We always had our own healing modalities. And by being exposed to both areas, to both the very, very successful and the people that are just trying to get by, I saw that the problems are the
The
same.
same. I love
And
that you share that because in my early 20s, I worked on private jets. I was a flight attendant. And I said the same thing because, from a young girl, my mom, we lived in government housing. She was single mom, just paycheck to paycheck. And we always idealize those people like, oh, they have it all, But once I worked on the private jet and I'm flying around with ex-presidents and world leaders, celebrities, I saw that they had the same problems as well, that money didn't bring them more happiness. Yeah, there was this freedom to fly all over the world on these private jets and go to these extravagant events. But I still saw this sadness, this loneliness and addictions. There was just so much. So I love it really at such a young age showed me that even though success, it won't bring you that happiness, right? You had to find it somewhere else. So I love that you shared that. But it was great to see both sides as well.
absolutely, as one of my teachers once said, it's like all that success does, or money, for example, is it just makes it easier for you to do certain things, but it doesn't change who you are. And the suffering is the same no matter what level you're at. The happiness is the same no matter what level you're at. And this is why I really incorporate thought processes. So the way it started is by actually seeing that many of the people that I was working with had tremendous success. And over time, the more successful they became, sometimes they would start getting sick. And I attribute this to guilt. This is what I started to see. And especially people that came from modest means and had to work really hard to get where they got, there's something that sometimes society tells us, right? It says, they think, oh, money is the root of all evil, or they make people feel guilty for succeeding. And so, what happens for people many times that have this thought process or this belief is that as they become successful, they start to feel guilty. And so they were told, again, and this goes back to programming, right? How were you programmed when you were growing up? What did society tell you was good and was bad? What is allowed? How much success are you allowed to have? How much happiness are you allowed to have? Society is constantly telling us what we get to have and what we don't get to have, right? And so we started to work on thought processes about guilt, about judgment, about deservingness, right? And really, this is where spirituality and faith come in, and a true desire to tune into what our gifts and our goals are in life, and realize that as we pursue success in all areas, whether it's mental, emotional, financial, physical, in our relationships, the more success we have in these areas, the more we are able to serve. And so when we're able to shift the thought processes from, oh, guilt, goodness gracious, I get to have all of this, but that person doesn't, versus amazing, I'm very blessed, and it is a gift from the divine that I get to do the work I do. And this does mean that I do have extra. And
I
with
love,
that extra,
I don't want to interrupt you, but I just
yeah.
could so resonate to that because I felt that, being raised as a young girl, money was seemed like, oh, those people, like almost bad, right? To have money. And it was always that guilt once, even after, my husband passed, I was able to just make some financial decisions that put me in a place where once I moved to Arizona, I was in a good place, and I had other friends going through divorces, single moms, and they were struggling. I felt that guilt, so guilty, and almost wanted to just kind of give away that money, because that felt more comfortable not having it, or be like, oh, I shouldn't have that, so I got better give it away, you know? And so I can understand that guilt that happens when you have it and you see others not succeeding as much. You kind of feel guilty that you're at that place now.
Absolutely. And this is so common and it can happen at any level, really, just having, I was listening to a woman the other day who her best friend had cancer and she was taking care of her friend. And what she realized is that even though she was in the process of doing something so kind and generous, she said she felt guilt about that she got to like go home at the end of the day to her family and that she was not ill. And what happened for her is that her friend got better and she later got cancer.
Oh, wow.
And this is where people can really see that the thoughts you have about everything that's happening in your life can literally affect the cells in your body. Our cells are desperate for love, for happiness, and for celebration. And sometimes, even in the suffering, and even when we are the ones that are there helping someone who is either very ill or mentally depressed in any area, to find the blessing there, right? I always tell the people that I work with that you cannot take on enough suffering to heal anyone. And the best way to be of service and to heal others is to optimize your own mindset, to make your body as healthy as you possibly can within your means and within what deck of cards you were given, right? It might not be perfect, but you optimize as much as you can with your body, with what you were given. And the happier we are, the more elevated we are, the more we can celebrate what we're winning at in life, the more we have to give others. Then we come from a very full place. Versus if I'm helping someone heal from cancer or depression, if you go into that situation with guilt and just feeling horrible about them and what's happening to them, you're actually contributing to the illness and the sadness. When people are ill, when people are depressed, they need someone to pull them up and to say, hey, you know what? There's a possibility of healing here. There's a possibility of another day. There's a possibility of another breath. And if you're willing to do the fight, I'm going to do the fight with you. And so we have to be very strong willed in our own thought processes, not only to lift ourselves up, but to better serve humanity and be a vessel for healing for others.
Well, how would you do that? Because I feel, yes, I love being able to help other and shine, a light for them and give them hope. But yes, I can't help, like, if I hear of another mother that lost their husband to suicide, it's like I feel that pain, and you just want to go help them and give them all. So what are some of the tools that you would say to protect yourself as you are wanting to help others, but not sit in that guilt or that shame? Or any fears.
Absolutely. So, one of the tools that I like to use first, and we use it for either healing ourselves or helping others heal, are removing interference, right? So, anything that's going to interfere with the vessel, with the energy of the healing process. Everything that we think is either going to enhance our healing and how we serve the world, or it's going to interfere with it. And there are very logical explanations for this. People think, oh, now you're going a little bit into the esoteric or the mystical or the woo. And actually, all energy work is not esoteric or mystical or woo. It's actually extremely logical, rational, and scientific. And here's why. If you have a thought of guilt or of sadness, or you have someone that you're working with and you're feeling really bad about it, You feeling bad is going to interfere with your energy levels. Every thought that you have creates a chemical reaction in your brain. And the chemical reactions in the brain create the emotions that we feel in our heart. And we think that the emotions and the feelings are coming directly from our heart. But scientists have studied this, and they can prove that there are chemical reactions in the brain that lead to the emotions. Therefore, if we know that our thoughts create chemical reactions in our body that generate emotions, we do have one place where we can always do some work, and that is with our thoughts. And now, this does not mean that we're not compassionate and that we're not empathetic. But it is a discipline and it is a commitment to say, I want to make sure that I'm a clean vessel, that if I'm going to help somebody, that I come with a clean slate and that I can help them as much as I can. So I must do the thought process work. I must do the mental work. Why? Because if I allow myself to fall into too much of the sadness, of the guilt, or the hard feelings, then that will affect my own emotions, my own chemistry, and what happens next based on the emotions. The emotions is from where we each speak. Emotions is from where we each take an action. So if I'm not managing the thoughts that create the chemicals that create the emotions, then I'm not actually controlling the actions that I'm going to take, the words that I'm going to say. And when we say the words and take the actions, now we're putting frequencies into the world, right? Now we are affecting others. If you have a bad negative thought or an anger about someone, you may go and process that on your own, and then it's done. But if you are angry and let's just say a simple example for somebody driving a car and they've got road rage, right? Well, if they've got road rage and then they, just say, hey, come on, you're overreacting. Let's stop this to themselves. That's very different than if they have road rage and they just go with it, slam on their brakes, get out of their car, and get into a fight. These are two completely different outcomes. It doesn't mean that the road rage didn't happen. It just means that the person was able to catch themselves and realize, like, hey, that's not really the best behavior. And maybe they stay mad, but at least they don't take the action on it. So there's always a place to create some interruption to the negativity or for an illness to continue and remove the interference.
I could see that. As I was writing my second book and I just finished it, I realized how my thought process of fear, I was living in so much fear for a really long time. But what I feared most was happening, and what my husband feared most started happening. So we created these realities through our fears. And I also, living in that fear, suppressed my immune system. And with my children co-regulating with me, I kind of projected fear onto them and affected their immune system as well. So emotionally, it had that ripple effect, and now I see that so clearly, how it plays such a big role in my life as who I surround myself with as well. Because if they project their fears onto me as oh, maybe I'm podcasting now, oh, I'm speaking up about suicide and this and that. If they have fear and I take that on, then I might not have the same outcome, leading up to releasing an episode or something. Like I see that ripple effect of these emotions taken on.
Absolutely. And I love that you mentioned this about you and your husband and your children, because we all have a lot of power, but there is a tremendous power within the woman's body. It is called the womb chakra. We all have chakras, right? If you believe in chakras. But I always say, if you don't believe in certain things, if there's a benefit to just believing it and trying it that is going to be beneficial to yourself and the world, you might want to give it a try.
Absolutely.
And so the energy of the mother, right, is the creative energy in the universe. And they always say that the mother has the most power, even though many times she is suppressed, but she has the most power because she literally can create life. This is a very big miracle, right? I mean, how more miraculous than the creation of life? And in India, for example, they believe very strongly in this. And in fact, they believe that the reason why Jesus was very powerful was also because he was very loved by Mary
Yes, yes. I
and
just
by
read a
Mary
book about Mary
Magdalene.
Magdalene, actually, and
Yes.
the story. Oh, I don't remember what it was called, but it was so good. And yeah, it explained that the love that they had.
Absolutely. And so, no matter what you believe about Jesus, the thing is, he was a man and he was very powerful and he did miracles and he was deeply loved by his mother, by his grandmother, by Mary, by her mother and her grandmother. And so, and Mary Magdalene. And so, he did have immense womb chakra love on him. And so the love of a woman is very healing, and especially to her children. And I can tell you that I've worked with clients that have had children that have addictions and depression. And one of the beautiful things that I have found is that when, and really both parents, right? Because the father can also generate this loving energy. But when both parents, for example, love their children and have the door open for them no matter what, if they're suffering for of any kind of, especially addictions, when that door is always open in a loving way, like a loving mother, those people always heal. They always come back to the healing at some point because this openness and this love, that womb chakra energy, if you want to call it that, but you can just call it a mother's love or a parent's love, is extremely healing. And people will always come back to the love. They always will come back. If they're going to go anywhere when they're suffering, they're going to go where the door is open with love.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I can see that. And why, as well, I always tell, mothers, especially just because, I'm a single mom, and to take care of themselves first. It's so important that their nervous system is strong and their body is healthy and they're a right place because yeah, they are the heart of the family, and they need to be healthy and not to feel guilt when they take maybe a couple days to get away and take that time for them, to change their thoughts. Actually, in Alaska, I had one of Wayne Dyer's quote right in the kitchen where I did dishes because I'd always be there cooking and whatnot. And it was, change your thoughts, change your mind, something like that.
Yeah,
But I would read that every day, and I
absolutely.
would have that shift all the time. Say, okay, I have a roof over my head. I have this. My children are healthy. And it really helped to change that shift. And that's why I even, my hashtag is Melissa Gratitude, because every morning that's what I start off with is just gratitude for everything, all the gifts, the hard, the bad, because it created who I am today. So I love this shift. I just have this question. I didn't want to miss this. So I know you guide people into elevated states of existence. What does that mean for someone who has never heard that term?
Absolutely. And I just want to tell you that Wayne Dyer was one of my teachers, and I was
Really?
blessed to work with him for many years.
Oh, wow.
And what he would say is when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Wow, it's beautiful. You're so
Yes.
lucky. I wish I could have met him. Actually, my mom, she was so sad. She was about to go see him one time, but he had passed. And yeah, he's a great, I love all his books. And I listen, I
Yes,
actually do his
absolutely.
meditation almost every morning. It's like that 20-minute
Oh,
meditation, the meditation with the
yes.
affirmations. Yeah.
Mhm. Absolutely. So, elevated states of living. So there's two things that I work on with my clients and with many doctors and many practitioners and their staff. We work on accelerating healing and elevating living. And we work both on the mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical. So, really, the mental, emotional, and spiritual effects on the physical body, on the healing of the physical body and how we live our life. And when I say physical body, this includes everything your physical body does. It's not just your physical health systems, but it's what you do in your career, how you interact with humanity, how you interact with your family. What does it mean to be elevated? Elevated means that you do not neglect any part of who you are as a human being. And regardless of what you believe, whether or not you believe you have a soul, whether or not you believe that, you're going to other states of consciousness when you leave the physical body, or whether you believe that it ends all here, it really doesn't matter. You can still be elevated. And what this means is, one, you must optimize your physical body. If you believe that you have a soul and you have a soul purpose, if you believe that there is a divine guidance, God, whatever you want to call it, that brought you here, whatever you believe spiritually. To be spiritual does not mean you neglect the physical, right? And we do have yogis and saints that live in the Himalayas to this day, and they don't truly interact with society, and that is their path. But for those of us here that are in the city, that are living lives, raising families, doing work with society, we come in a physical body. And so the physical body has to be optimized in order for the mental, emotional, and spiritual to be elevated. So they work together. We don't neglect any of them, actually. And so elevated means that you do the physical work you have to do at every level of your life. That means for your health, for your mental wellness, for your livelihood, because you must provide for yourself. And the more abundance you have, the easier it is to have access to have the help that you need. For example, if you have children that are sick or if you have mental illness, well, it does cost money to get the help you need, right? So you must optimize your finances and your abundance and how you live your life. You must learn how to budget. You must have success in the financial realm. You must optimize your body. If you want to do good works in the world and you're suffering from severe depression, it is very difficult to have the motivation to go out into the world and help others. And this is where medicine comes in. This is where getting the help you need, whether it's, peptides or changing your diet or incorporating exercise, making sure your hormones are balanced, making sure that your brain chemistry is balanced. All of this has to be checked. This is our vessel. You get to navigate this life, whatever you may call it, in this one body, and your body, your mind, your spirit, your circumstances are going to be with you forever.
Yeah,
I always say,
that's kind of why I love that biohacking world, because I see that with myself. Because even testing my son, doing a brain scan, I saw where we were at, because of the fear, the immune system being deplenish, we went through mold toxicity and parasites, and how it cloud, the brain fog and the fatigue, the hair loss. So I've been really working towards being optimized, living with full energy, feeling great. I exercise. And so, because to declutter the mind so you can hear God, you can hear the spirit, because if that is congested with toxins, it's really hard to hear him. It clouds over. It's almost this dark cloud and you can't see the light. I remember seeing that with my husband, where I'm trying to explain him all of this. Like, come for a walk with us. Yeah, we should, work out more and eat that. And he'd make fun of me because everything was organic, or, try a little bit of health nut is what he would call me. But I said, there's a purpose to that clarity, because once your environment is too toxic, it really does affect your mind. So I love that you mentioned that. And I know you speak at a lot of bio and hiking events and health conferences, because that all plays a big role of mind, body, and spirit.
yes, absolutely. And I think we are in an era now where more and more people are realizing things are sort of crossing over, right? The very spiritual are crossing over to understand how important the physical is. And those who are very much into the physical wellness are also crossing over and realizing how important the spiritual is. And how I always call it the dance of scientific medicine and spiritual medicine. And this is how you live what I call the blessing way, the elevated way, is that you take care of all of the factors because we're here to serve, right? Our soul is here for great happiness. And what makes the soul very happy is to be of service and to see others thriving and to live in a thriving body so that we can truly enjoy this physical realm as well. It's, a gift to have each day to live, to go hiking, to share time with our loved ones, to enjoy delicious food, travel through the world. These are extraordinary blessings that we get to do. And so the physical body must be optimized. And that actually helps us, exactly like you said, to hear the spirit, to hear that inner guidance, and to be more in tune with that beautiful inner guidance of the divine light, divine guidance, God, and God in all its names.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know you mentioned the blessing way. What does that mean, and how can someone start living that today? Someone that hasn't done any of this, so how would you get them started? Like just the first step for the blessing way.
Yes, the blessing way. So, the blessing way is number one, realizing that your soul came here to play. Your soul came here to have fun, to enjoy, and to expand itself. And so, just like with children, when children tell you, you're not the boss of me, oh, you can't tell me what to do, we think, that they're having a little, bratty attitude at that moment. But they're not. It's actually their soul speaking to us and saying, hey, I'm a soul in this body. I'm not here for you to contain me. I am here to expand and explore and love and give and be. And so one of the things is realizing what do you love? And really tuning in and noticing every single day things that you really love, things that light you up, whether it's a color or a certain landscape or being around certain people or something that brought a tear to your eye because it was so inspiring. The more we pay attention to the things we love, the more our soul plays in this life and lives the blessing way, the elevated way. The other tool is that we notice the things that don't resonate with us, right? And the things that make us feel bad. And we start to eliminate those things slowly and gently from our lives. And I always say slowly and gently because we are not meant to be shocked. Our bodies do not like stress or shock, and anything that you do abruptly becomes a stress in the body. I talk about this with people with boundaries, right? When we're starting to learn boundaries, sometimes they're very strong and they're very harsh. And sometimes we step on others' toes in that process. Well, I encourage people as they set their boundaries and notice the things that they have an aversion to release those things gently out of their life. And this again opens more of that way for the blessing way, for the elevated way. So there's a few things that I ask people to do every morning that really set the tone. And many people are able to be great meditators, but many people are just not. That's just not their makeup. It's sitting still is just not available to them. And so I keep things very simple. You'll love this one because you're Melissa Gratitude.
Yes.
um, Starting the day with gratitude, of course. And, I never say, write down 20 things you're grateful for because some people don't have the time or the bandwidth for that. But if you can just get up every day and think of 3 things you're grateful for, you're already ahead of the game. And then I ask people to set intentions and set intentions for themselves. Again, what do you really love? What do you really wish? If there was no opinion on what you wanted and you could just want and have whatever you wanted with no consequence, what would those 3 things be? Have an intention for those 3 things. And then the most important one, the one that will give you the most in life at every level and help you live the blessing way, and I'll explain why, is to have 3 intentions of giving. Have 3 intentions of how you may serve humanity today. Think of 3 people you can do something for. What can I do today to make the world a better place, whether it's just for one person or 20 people? If you can think of three things you can give, now what happens is that you are signaling your body that you are abundant. You are signaling your mind that you have more than enough. And your body says, "Oh, wow, Melissa must be doing amazing because she's talking to me about doing things for other people. We must have it going on. We must be really jamming. We're doing great." And so these are messages to your body. Every thought you have, every intention you have is a signal literally to the cells of your body. And when we come from a place of generosity and giving, the cells in our body feel at ease. Our mind feels at ease. We stop thinking about what's stressing us out, and we realize, oh, things must be well for us because we are thinking about helping others. And the more we can have the intention of giving, of helping, of being of service, the more we live the blessing way and the more blessed we are and the more we actually receive, the more we heal our physical body because we come from a place of giving, of fullness. And so now if everyone comes to their day full, it's just a dance of happiness and giving and celebration.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I love the blessing way. I feel like I've kind of learned how to do this process myself and through books and podcasts and my own healing journey, but and how it truly does work. Obviously being of service, with writing my book, and inspiring other suicide survivors that they to release that shame, that guilt, and that their children will be okay. They will thrive again. And it is so rewarding to be of service in that way and sharing, your message here today. That's what I prayed on. I said, okay, how can we be of service? What are the questions that somebody out there really needs to hear, and it is truly powerful. Yeah, I love that you share everything that you're sharing. I really resonate with. I know you've worked with people we look up to for wisdom, like doctors, spiritual leaders, entrepreneurs, celebrities. What have you learned about what they secretly struggle with? Why is it so important that those in leadership roles heal themselves first?
Absolutely. When you are when you are very visible to the world, the more visible you are, the more opinions there are about you, right? And when somebody is visible, when somebody is known, when they're high profile, there comes a tremendous responsibility to serve humanity and to make sure that everything you are doing in the public eye, that you are benefiting those who get to witness, whether it's your success or your power, or whether you are a spiritual guide or the guru of the century or the most famous celebrity or a president. Your obligation, your spiritual moral obligation, is to serve. And so one of the things that people that are high profile and in the public eye run into, again, we go back to guilt, we go back to shame. And what happens for many of them is that they lose boundaries. Their boundaries actually go down the more success they have. Why? Because of the guilt, right? So what happens is that many of these people have teams around them that start to take advantage of them because they are unable to set the boundaries due to feeling like, well, I have so much, like I'd better just be really nice. And this happens a lot in medical practices. It happens a lot with celebrities that you've heard of, like that their brother, their sister, their cousin, their staff stole this and that from them because they just don't have the boundaries, and they need to learn to set those strong boundaries again. And the way they do that, again, is by working on the thought processes and really shifting how they view themselves. So we have to shift from, do I deserve this blessing, to, wow, look at the blessings I have. I get to do tremendous work to help the world heal. I get to use every, profile, every, dollar, every word, every speech, every song, every movie to actually help others heal. And when everything is shifted from, do I deserve this, to, I've got this, I'm going to use it for good, this really changes how people act in the world. And it helps them also to have conviction, right? As much as it's wonderful to be humble, humility does not mean that you don't know what you know. On the contrary, the powerful people in the world, the ones that are leading, the ones that are putting their voice out, I want them to say, I know what I know. I'm here to serve and do their work. For example, with doctors, when a patient comes to a doctor, if the patient comes to the patient is not coming for the doctor to say, okay, well, we will try this and see how it goes. No, the patient is coming for a healing, and they want the doctor to say to them, yes, we are going to heal this, and we're going to do this, this, and this. And you must, like in all of our lives, we must have a very strong will, a very strong determination that we know what we're doing. And this is why it matters so much to have the intention of serving. That's what gives you the will. That's what gives you the determination and the absolute clarity that you're here to do good works, and even more confidence in the work that you are doing for people. Versus if we come from a place of greediness, for example, oh, I just want to do this to elevate myself and to have everything for myself. That's very different. And actually, the people that think that way, they're the ones that are constantly stumbling because they're not coming from the place of generosity. But when you come from the place of serving, of living the blessing way, of how may I serve, and I know you've heard that before if you've heard Wayne Dyer speak,
Yes.
always talked about how may I serve, how may I serve, then yes, you've earned the right to have complete self confidence, determination, and a strong will to do your work. And guess what? You have an army of angels around you helping you do it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, but it, again, you say just be careful as you serve, because as you're speaking, I think of my husband who was a dentist, and had a big practice, and he loved, helping, and we did have some staff still from us, and he wanted to give and give so much, but I think, yeah, his budget just got depleted and he had nothing left. He had to give back to himself as much as he gave to others. And as well as being a practitioner, being so empathetic with his patients that had so much fear all the time. Or if a procedure didn't work, there's that guilt or that shame, or, so it's protecting the people that are really, want to be of service, is protecting, give back just as much that they do to others, right? To give from a full bucket. So I've been trying to practice that too, because sometimes I do feel, you kind of go, and you're depleted, and I'm like, okay, I need to backtrack and spend a little space to myself. But there is that guilt that comes to that, because I'm like, oh, I should be helping all these other people, and so it's finding that balance. So it sounds like it's really ultimately finding that harmony, that balance from the physical, mind, and spirit. And I always say it as an analogy, the tropical forest has a perfect amount of fungi and bacteria, and for it to thrive, it needs that balance.
Absolutely. And there are tools that I give my clients, especially the ones that are doctors and healers and people that are serving, but this serves all people. Throughout the day, every day, as we are serving and doing our works in the world, it's important to understand that there's always an energy exchange with every person we encounter, everywhere we go. There's a certain energy there. And when we are engaged in conversation or in a service, we are attaching to that person for that moment. We're having a conversation, a connection, whether it's somebody at the grocery store or a patient or a client or us as patients to doctors. And so we connect at those moments. Throughout the day, I encourage people to consciously disconnect after every interaction. Because otherwise, I don't know if that's ever happened to you, but you meet with someone and then you keep thinking about it. You just keep thinking about that conversation, like what you could have said differently, what you could have done differently. This is where that's an energy drain. This affects your stress levels, your physiology, your brain chemistry. It's, thinking about things over and over again. So we have to have some tools to say, I am detaching. And it could be as simple as saying, okay, I had this conversation, I had this engagement, now I'm detaching. I give my doctors tools like, tapping, for example, between patients, maybe spraying some nice essential oils that they enjoy, turning music on for like a minute and just dancing for a second,
Oh, I like
doing
that one.
some, yeah, that's my favorite too.
I love dancing. That's been very therapeutic too.
Oh, dancing is extremely
Yeah.
therapeutic. Doing some squats or some jumping jacks, like just breaking up that energy in between clients or patients or interactions makes you more present for the next person and also breaks any energy drains on your own physiology. So these are very practical, simple tools. And I work with very scientific minds in the medical world, and when they know what I do at first, they're very hesitant because they're like, "Oh, is
I
she going
see
to
that
tell me
in
to
the
go?"
dental world as I'm like trying to bring breath work and talking about the solar
Yeah,
plexus, and oh yeah, they're like, what are you talking
right.
about?
Exactly. But it's very practical, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And it actually does have a physiological effect, and it has mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical effects on the body. If we don't have tools to break up our day, to interfere and cancel certain energies, right? And especially it's important when you're dealing with people that are very ill. We have to disconnect because we are empathetic. You have empathy towards humanity. Most people are very empathetic and very kind and do take on the suffering of others. And so once we realize that we cannot be of great service if we are suffering with the suffering, we start to learn the tools, right? So you start to break up your day. You start to, do a dance, do some jumping jacks, anything in between interactions. And if you can't do anything, then you literally just say, hey, I had this interaction. I feel very deeply for this person. And now I must detach because I must serve the rest of my day and the rest of the people that I get to be with. And I must serve myself. I must serve my body. That is my vessel. And you have to keep your body optimized. So you have to do the detaching so that your body is always whole. If you attach all day long to many, many people and don't detach at any point and do something to clear your energy and for yourself, something that's soothing for yourself, then you're depleting. And soon there's no energy left for your own physical body, for your own emotional life to be peaceful, and for your own mental state to be de stressed.
So, what do you incorporate when you're working with someone, even, if you feel like there's some darkness in there, maybe they're dealing with some addictions or they're just a depression. And so, what do you kind of practices? Because I know as I do group breath work sessions and whatnot, you could probably take that on. And I do some clearing as well, after, before and after. But I'm just curious as to what practices you do after you work with someone.
Yes, absolutely. Depending on where I'm working with them, right? So many times I'm at a medical practice, at a conference, one on one or over Zoom. I always find a place to, if I can, go outside, even for like a minute or 2 minutes. And just like, if I can see the sun, for me, that's amazing. I just connect to the sun. Just what does that mean, connect to the sun? It's not so woo. It's not mystical. I don't have wings to fly up there and grab it. you know, I just, see it and allow the sun as I breathe in, and you do breath work so you understand how powerful that is. I breathe in the sun through the top of my head and I take it all the way down to my feet and let it go through the earth. And I just do like a few breaths with the sun. If I have gone into bathroom stalls and just done a bunch of tapping because I was at a conference or somewhere where I had no privacy and just tapped my body. Sometimes you just also like clear your body like this. You tap it, you're like, okay, I'm cleaning off that energy. and then taking again some breaths to bring in the energy that you want. And that is very interesting, right? Because a lot of people do the clearing, but they forget to get refilled up. So we don't just do the clearing, right? We also have to say, okay, now I'm clearing this out. Jumping is great. I love jumping. I do like jumping all the time in between, kind of like you would just bounce on the floor, because that actually clears out your lymphatic system as well.
Okay, I'll
So
have to
it
try that.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
Even just 10 jumps, just like you would on a rebounder, this clears out your lymphatic system and it resets your body very quickly. I think jumping is one of the fastest ways to shift the energy in your body, not just physiologically, but also emotionally and spiritually, because it's almost like you're telling the body, I'm clearing this out. And it's also telling the body, I'm alive. Look,
Mm,
I'm jumping, I'm here. And so everything I use is very, very simple. And it all has both mental, emotional, spiritual, and physiological effects. And then I set the intention to refill, right? And again, usually that is with breath, because that's the easiest thing that we can always do. Just taking a few breaths of gratitude, of knowing I'm full, I'm here to serve, I know that I can do good works here. And I always pray. I always ask. I
that's
always
beautiful.
say, may I be honest, humble, and helpful. May I be guarded and guided. I ask the divine, please use me as your vessel. Speak through me. Speak the words that will help someone today. Help me serve humanity. Help me stay out of my way.
Yes, I always say that. I'm like, hey, God just wants me to get out of my own way. I block my own self of what He's asking me to do, and I love everything that you shared right now. Every single tool didn't cost $1. I love that.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
absolutely love that because a lot of people be like, "Oh, well, I need money to go and do." And like everything you mentioned right there didn't cost a dime. So it's for everybody. It's for all, and that's why I'm also passionate about the breath work and the prayer and the affirmations, all of those, because you can take those with you anywhere. And those practices are very, very powerful. So I love that you share that. Now, so let me look at some of the questions because there were some that I didn't want to miss asking you. Uh, I feel like oh yeah, what's your prayer or blessing for ever, what's an example of prayer? I think you just kind of mentioned one, but what's one you're drawn to or you'd like to share?
Yes. Well, am a person that I embrace all spiritual practices, all religious practices. I don't personally practice one in particular. I believe that the divine, God, Jesus, Allah, Krishna, whatever you choose to call the divine, I believe the divine is so great and so beautiful
Me
and
too.
so
I always say
full.
that, like all the religions.
Yes.
Yeah, I say that in my book too, the last chapter.
Absolutely. Yes, that it's so beautiful that it said at some point in time, it said, listen, guys, I want you all to benefit from the blessings that I can give you. So I'm going to give you all kinds of religious practices, all kinds of spirituality. So then you get to choose what you want to call me. You get to choose how you work with me. So I think the vast diaspora that we have of practices is actually a reason to celebrate even more. And in my own prayers, I consider doing affirmations and prayers pretty much the same thing. I always ask to be guided. This is the most important thing. I do my own meditation in the morning. And, there was a point in time where I used to meditate. My whole prayer practice was like 2 hours every morning.
Oh wow.
I don't do that anymore, because I continue to get busier with the blessings that keep happening in my life. And so I have about a 30-minute practice, but it includes a lot of things, right? It's not like sitting there the whole time. I do a small meditation. I do a little bit of writing. I do the things that I mentioned to you, the three things I'm grateful for, the three intentions I have for myself, the three intentions I have on how I may serve. I think about the people that may need some extra good energy today, some extra blessings. I think about those people and I put my hand on my heart just like this. And I try to just send them some silent blessings, silent love, or a good intention. It doesn't have to be so, complicated. Just thinking of them and wishing good for them. I try to think of whoever comes to mind, people that I know are struggling in the world. And more than anything, in my particular case, my goal is to help as many people as I can, or if you want to call it that, for the divine to use me to help as many people as it can, and to bring into my life the people that need and can benefit from my teachings or the things that I've been blessed to learn that I can pass on, to be of service, to serve in a way that makes people's lives better. This is my great prayer. And I do pray, please, keep my physical body healthy, give me clear signs to know what's next for me, as, we all are experiencing life one year at a time. I pause there for a second because I don't call it aging. I'm very careful with the wording regarding living on the planet. I call it, how many years have I been blessed to live on the planet? And I actually, a friend of mine and I were both joking because he's actually one of the very well known spiritual leaders in the world. And he was also saying that he never thinks about his age in numbers, because we're here in the moment to serve. So I do, in the prayers, include, that I may always be conscious of what's going on with my physical body, so that I always take good care of it, right? As our physical bodies are so good to us, they carry us through this amazing life. So I do ask, guide me, speak to me, let me know what you need, so that I can take very good care of this physical vessel that I'm so privileged to have, you know.
Yeah, to stay attuned to your body. I feel like I very much attuned. Okay, what do I need? Okay, in my office, some supplements, or do I need more sunshine? I love that you mentioned nature. I often, I know when I lived in Alaska, in British Columbia as well, I'd go up to the mountains. I felt called to just always go up to the mountains. And now lately it's been going out to California, actually, go to the ocean. The ocean has been really healing for my family. And that's nature's always been a big part to recalibrate our nervous system. And I know I've noticed that now that you're speaking more. Is that what you'd like to do moving on, or you're is being more prevalent like on podcasts now? So, which is great platform to share your beautiful blessings.
Yes, so I've always spoke, and throughout my life, I started in the entertainment industry, and I started as a host, a TV host, then an actress, and I had the blessing of speaking for many large audiences for a very long time. And so now, for many years, as my personal practice got busier and busier with my private clients, I was only doing private speaking, like to their organizations. But as I started to work more closely with doctors and their organizations, thanks to my clients, actually, because my clients started to realize, while they worked with me, they wanted their doctors to be on the same team, on the same wavelength. They wanted, when they had severe illness, they wanted the doctors to understand the mental, emotional, and spiritual work they were doing, so that the doctors could get on board and affect their physical healing. And so there are only so many hours in the day, as you
Yeah.
know. And this is why I'm accepting more speaking at conferences and for larger audiences. Why? Because this is a way to get the message out to more people. I encourage many of the people that I work with, for example, the doctors, to do social media, to go speak at these conferences. Why? Many of these doctors are private concierge doctors that the average person cannot afford. And so the way that we get to give back is by putting content out on social media, so that, guess what? There might be someone who's suffering with an illness that can only go to a regular primary care doctor, but they just heard this amazing doctor that does a ton of research talk about, a new medication or a new test that can be done. So they might just catch that on social media one day, and they can take that to their primary care doctor and say, hey, I heard about this. Please, let's get this tested. Let's try this. So the speaking really is about making the messages available to more
Yes.
people,
More
right?
broad. Yeah, seeing social media a different way too. Actually, was my publisher who told me the same thing as I was writing my book. She's like, "You're really going to have to get out there, see it as not a negative, but just a free platform to reach so many more people." You know, now I have people worldwide texting me from Australia or Spain, and that I've made, you know, Halifax in Canada, and I was like, "Wow, I wouldn't be able to reach those people if I've never went on social media." So seeing it as a positive where we can spread that light, you know, and in a bigger platform. So I love that. And it's true. It's, you know, even when I read Good Energy with Callie Means, you know, they're just sharing their knowledge too on social media. So you know what to ask your doctor. And I love that you're working on doctors as well, because they'll have, you know, if I think of our dental practice, we have 5,000 patients. So if you work on that dentist, it's going to have that ripple effect to how they treat all their patients and their staff. You know, I saw that with a local dentist here, Dr. Nichols, what he's creating at his office, doing breath work with his team and working on himself and his wife has a tremendous amount of ripple effect, how he treats everyone from the root cause, you know, and understanding that energy exchange and bringing that forward. So I see that being really powerful.
Oh, absolutely. You know, the doctors that incorporate their own mindset tools that really start to elevate how they live their lives and how they are happy in their own personal life. Those doctors have far better patient outcomes than doctors that are not incorporating these tools. And I've worked with many practices that do this now. They not only are giving good care, good medical care, but they are also working on their mindset. And we actually work with their staff as well, like on how to shift their mindset, how to remove interference. Again, when we remove interference to our own healing, we also remove interference on how we affect other people. If you are a service provider, a medical provider, for example, this is the easiest one. If you have any judgment on the person that you're going to help, if doctors or their staff have a judgment on the patient doesn't know exactly why, but they have a little bit of a reservation on sharing everything because there's something in their consciousness that knows they're being judged. Versus if a doctor, if a staff, or any of us who provide any service can come to each human being who we are blessed to serve with a clean slate, not judging them. We don't care where they came from, how famous they are, if they're not famous, if they have a bad reputation or a good reputation. We just see them as a human being that is coming for help, that needs some healing, that is just like everyone else with their own faults. And we just serve them. Like I tell them, look at the problem they're coming with, don't look at the personality. Just come
Yes.
in with the purpose of helping them heal. Then you remove the interference. And these staffs and doctors that I've worked with, I mean, suddenly their patients, even difficult patients that they've had, suddenly they change their mindset. They're suddenly optimistic. They used to come in like kind of with a bad attitude or hopeless, you know, thinking it's not going to work for them. Now they're coming in feeling good because they feel welcome. They know they're not being judged. And now they're looking forward to their visits. And guess what? That actually affects how the medicine, how the physical therapy, how the protocols that the doctors give them affects them.
Affects them. Oh, I can see that. It's so powerful because it affects, you know, the inflammation in the body, right? The immune system. So it's as a whole. I love that. So how can people find you and your amazing blessings? You know, your posts are always so inspiring. You know, every time I read one, I'm like, oh yes, this is it.
Thank you.
And so how can people find you?
Yeah, so the easiest way to find me is on Instagram, which is at Lea Lovio, Llovio. And it's Lea Lovio, like love you, because I do. And I always say that. And also my website, which is pretty much the same, my name.com.
And we'll put all that on the show notes. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. I cannot wait to see you again in person at one of the events or whenever you're in town. I'd love to connect, and we'll see you soon.
Wonderful. So good to see you, Melissa. Thank you so much.
Thank you.